The Girl in the Box. 7 Years of Captivity. The perfect hitchhiker's day, that turned into a nightmare. It was May 19, 1977, a bright spring morning in Eugene, Oregon. 20-year-old Colleen Stan was full of life, independent, spontaneous, and fearless. She had a bag on her shoulder, her thumb out on the highway, and a smile on her face. She was heading to a friend's birthday party in Northern California, a trip of just a few hours. Hitchhiking in the 1970s was common. People trusted strangers more back then. But for Colleen, one wrong ride would turn her world into a living hell. She turned down 2 cars before one stopped, a blue Dodge Colt with a friendly-looking young couple and their baby inside. Cameron and Janice Hooker. They seemed safe. A young family. A baby in the back seat. What could go wrong? Colleen got in. At first, everything felt normal. They laughed, shared stories, stopped for gas, and played music. But then Colleen noticed something strange. At one rest stop, when she tried to use the restroom, a quiet voice in her head said, "Don't get back in the car." But she did. And just miles later, the tone in the car shifted. Cameron's friendly smile was gone. His voice became sharp. The baby was asleep. The road was empty. They pulled off near Red Bluff, California, to see some ice caves, Cameron said. Inside the car trunk was a strange wooden box. It looked heavy, handmade, like a small coffin. Before Colleen could react, Cameron forced her inside. He locked it shut. Darkness. Silence. Panic. Her world became smaller than a coffin. Her life suddenly measured in inches. Cameron Hooker took Colleen to his home, a quiet house on a street where no one noticed much. He brought her into the basement, where her prison awaited. The wooden box was lined with padding to muffle sound. There were air holes. That's where she stayed. For 23 hours a day. Only let out to eat, use the bathroom, or when Cameron wanted something darker. He whipped her, electrocuted her, and told her that if she screamed, men from a secret organization called the Company would kill her and her family. The Company, he said, was everywhere. They watched everything. They controlled her fate. It was a lie. But Cameron built it so carefully, so methodically, that Colleen believed it with every breath she took. Over time, he broke her will, piece by piece, until she obeyed him without question. This wasn't just physical captivity. It was psychological enslavement. Cameron's wife, Janice Hooker, knew everything. She had met Cameron years earlier and agreed to let him act out his violent sexual fantasies, as long as he didn't touch her. Janice stood by as her husband tortured another woman in their home. She even helped hide Colleen under their bed, in a box just 7 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet high. 4 years, Janice lived her daily life, cooking, cleaning, attending church, all while knowing that another human being was suffocating in the dark beneath her. The box grew hotter in summer, freezing in winter. Sometimes, Colleen fainted. Sometimes, she lost all sense of time. Her body weakened. Her mind broke. But she never lost one thing, the will to survive. By 1978, Cameron had turned his fantasies into a twisted reality. He made Colleen sign a slave contract, legally binding, in his mind. The document stated that Colleen was his property, his slave. He gave her a new name, Kay. He showed her fake letters and documents proving that the Company would harm her if she disobeyed. It was a total system of fear. He even introduced her to his neighbors, as the families live in Nanny. No one suspected a thing. Colleen smiled, spoke politely, even attended church with the Hookers. But every night, she went back to the box. Her life was a performance, captivity disguised as normalcy. Over time, the box wasn't the only prison. Cameron didn't just lock Colleen's body, he locked her mind. She began to believe that the Company was real. She thought her family would die if she ran. So she stayed. Cameron took her on trips, to visit her parents. She sat in their living room, smiling, silent, pretending everything was fine. Her parents thought she'd joined a religious group. They never imagined their daughter would return home as a slave, sitting right before them, too terrified to speak. That's how complete Cameron's control had become. She was broken, living but not alive. Years passed. 7 of them. Cameron became obsessed with building more boxes, more traps, and more ways to control Colleen. But Janice began to unravel. The guilt, the lies, the fear. It all built up until she couldn't take it anymore. She confessed to a local priest. And in 1984, she finally told Colleen, "The company doesn't exist." That was all it took. In that instant, the chains around Colleen's mind shattered. She walked out of the hooker's house that very day. No screaming. No violence. Just freedom. After 7 years of slavery, she stepped into the sunlight. When Colleen reported her ordeal, the story sounded impossible. 7 years locked in a box? A wife complicit? A fake company controlling everything? But then investigators searched the hooker's house. And they found it. The box. The whips. The contracts. The Polaroids. Every horrific detail of her story was true. In 1985, Cameron Hooker was sentenced to 104 years in prison for kidnapping, sexual assault, and torture. Janice received immunity for cooperating. Colleen Stan rebuilt her life, though her trauma never truly left. She married, worked with victim support groups, and became an advocate for survivors of captivity. The story of the girl in the box still terrifies because it's not just about chains and locks. It's about control, fear, and how easily the human mind can be broken. Colleen Stan's case changed how investigators understood long-term captivity and coercive control, showing how manipulation can be as powerful as any physical restraint. Even decades later, her story forces us to ask, how many others are still trapped, not in boxes, but in fear, silence, or invisible prisons of their own? Because sometimes, monsters don't hide in the dark. They live right above the box. 7 years. One box. One unbreakable will. Colleen Stan's survival is proof of what humans can endure, and a warning of what evil can hide behind ordinary faces. This is Trial and Terror. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe as we uncover the darkest crimes and coldest mysteries the world has ever known. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, justice begins with truth.